What's up guys? So I had the opportunity to buy an iPhone 6 on release day. Now this video is not going to be like most of the videos you've probably already seen on YouTube. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to talk about specs. I want to do a review video that focuses on the iPhone 6 for what it is, looking at it at face value. Now, one thing I do want to say is that this video is going to focus more on your average consumer, somebody that's going to buy the phone like many people that buy smartphones just to browse the web, look at their email, do a little bit of social networking. But I'm also going to give you my point of view from my perspective as an Android user. So to kind of mix both of them up, I want to give you the most objective review that's out there on YouTube today. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, I want to say that this is the best iPhone that I have ever used. I also want to say that this is the best iPhone that Apple has created. And it should be. You would think that after every release, a phone should get better. But I don't think that has always been the case for Apple. But I really think that the iPhone 6 is a huge improvement compared to the previous releases or previous generations of the iPhone. I was really looking forward to the iPhone 6, primarily for the larger display and, of course, the features that are coming from Android. And I don't mean that in a negative way. A lot of the iOS 8 features, I would say a good 90% of them are from Android. Features that we've come to enjoy, and I figured that if I can have more features like Android in iOS 8, the transition for me to use this as a daily driver, I would feel like home. So I was really excited. I picked the 5.5 version, but ended up getting the 6 because it was still on back order. And I must say that the 6 feels really good in the hands. I mean, I know everybody seems to say that it feels really good in the hands, but I think it's almost like the perfect size for a one-handed operation. In terms of build quality, I don't think we really need to question that. I think that Apple has always created really good phones in terms of build quality, fit and finish. It's a very nice looking phone. It's a bit slippery for my liking. I know certain people did not like the protruding camera in the back and also the antenna bands. They said it wasn't typical Apple to overlook those things in terms of design, and if Steve Jobs was alive, that would not happen. But you know what? I look at it like this. There's a reason why it had to be that way. Sure, they could have made the phone a little bit bigger. But to be frank with you, if it would have been a little bit, wider, I don't think it would feel the same way it does right now, which I think it looks or feels really good. So from a hardware perspective, I have no complaints about the iPhone. If there was one complaint though, it would have to be having to push a physical button. Now I know that's going to be a personal preference, but coming from Android and not having to push a button, it does become a nuisance and I don't like it. But again, I'm saying very open-minded, so that would be my only complaint coming from an Android is that I would have to push that button. And I feel that the buttons also, the placement is too far down for comfort. Other than that, everything else is pretty much solid. Now let's move on to the software side. iOS 8 is still iOS, and not much has changed. Even though those features from Android were ported over to iOS 8, I still felt that there was a lot of things that I missed on Android. Now remember, I am coming from an Android phone. I think that people who are using an iPhone as a daily driver right now are going to really appreciate all of these new features and functionality. So if you are using an iPhone, I would say that yes, these features are really good. But to me, coming from an Android phone, there was really nothing there that wowed me. And to be frank with you, there were still a lot of features that I would want on an iPhone. But that doesn't really make the iPhone a bad phone. I think the iPhone, looking at this particular model, the iPhone 6, I really truly believe that Apple has a really good smartphone. Everything is really good on this phone. I would recommend it as a matter of fact, but that's just it. It's just a good phone. It doesn't really excel in any department. I would just say it has a really good camera, the hardware is good, the software is good, but that's just it. It's just a good phone, and iOS 8 really proved that to me. I really don't want to sit here and tell you all of the features that the iPhone can't do because this is not what the video is about. But I would give you an example of something that I use on my Android phone on a daily basis that became an issue to me on the iPhone. Take, for example, trusted networks. That's something that most Android phones have, and if it doesn't have, you can download an app and you have it available. Basically what it does is when you're at home or your office or even in your car connected to Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, you can have a trusted network so you don't have to enter your password. To me, having that feature alone on the iPhone, because I do have it password protected, and I understand that you have Touch ID, which works really, really good, and I really like that feature. It's still an added step, something that I just can't use my phone right away. So little things like that. Again, I don't want to talk about all of those features that the iPhone can do, but coming from Android, you do get accustomed to a lot of features, and it's very difficult for me to use a phone where it would take me 2 or 3 additional steps to do on an iPhone that would normally take 1 step to do on my Android phone. But with that being said, again, if you're coming from an iPhone or if you've never used a smartphone in your life, I think that these features or the lack thereof won't really bother you because you don't really have anything to compare it with. And I also think it's more of a personal preference. I use my phone different from you, but I'm just sharing my experience in that respect. Though not comparing iOS to any other platform like Android, Windows, and just seeing iOS for what it is, and the iPhone, as I stated before, it's a really good phone. iOS and the hardware with the iPhone work really well together. I must say that it's very smooth. I know some people complain on previous versions of the iPhone that it was a bit laggy, but I didn't really experience any lag at all. I think it was very smooth. I also think that Touch ID, as I mentioned, works really well. I was very happy to use it, and actually a huge bonus from Android is the ability to, for example, I use eTrade to manage my stocks. So having to just put my thumb there to authenticate the app so that I don't have to use enter my username and password, that was something that was really comforting, and I'm all for making things a lot easier. So Touch ID, I would say, is a huge thing, and I would even say it merits having a physical button, and I would be okay with a physical button because of that. I would just hope that maybe Apple, rather than having to push it, you could just tap on the button. But again, these are just personal preferences that I would want in an operating system. Also, the camera works really good. I was able to take this to Disneyland, use it in low light. The camera is excellent in low light. I also took video in low light. And for your viewing pleasure, here is a clip of the Haunted Mansion, which most of you who have been on this ride know that it is very dark in here. I was actually impressed with the camera, not only from the photography side, but also the video side, which worked really well. So bottom line, if you've used an iPhone before or an iPad, and you're familiar with the operating system, then you pretty much know what to expect. Now, if you're coming from Android, it's going to probably be a little bit of a disappointment because a lot of things that you're used to having are going to be pretty much stripped away. Even applications, for example, Plex is one application that I had to buy on the iPhone that I had for free over on the Android side. And there's many other applications that I also had to purchase on the iPhone side just to be able to use them, where on the Android side you have a free version that works perfectly fine. So the big question coming from Android, is it worth switching over to iOS 8? And to answer that question, for me, that would be no. A lot of the new features in iOS 8, for example, the custom keyboards are still wonky, they don't work properly. A lot of times applications would crash. The custom keyboard is not implemented really well. Matter of fact, if you guys know Jamar Du Bois, who's on the Droid Effect, he was also having problems along with other people, and it turns out if you disable the custom keyboards, you're not going to have any issues. So that was a big issue for me because I'm a huge fan of custom keyboards, being able to swipe, and just having that application installed on the phone created a lot of problems within iOS that was almost unusable, from applications crashing, from applications not working properly, from just overall in general system stability was not there. So looking at a company like Apple, who has a whole bunch of resources, and I just paid a premium for this device, to me that is unacceptable. That is something that I would not expect from a company that has lots of resources, and especially since iOS 8 was in beta and had a developer preview, these are things that I would not expect from a release. I think my buddy Jamar Du Bois said it best. We were talking the other day, and in regards to the iPhone 6 Plus, there's really nothing there that Apple did to change anything to make it better for a bigger phone. What I mean by that is you have the Galaxy Note, which has an S Pen. And I know many people could say, oh, the S Pen is a joke. But in reality, the S Pen serves its purpose. A lot of people that have notes use the S Pen. It's a very handy tool. It's useful. But there's really nothing useful about the 6 Plus rather than having a larger display, and that's it. There was really nothing there that Apple did to differentiate itself from a phablet, as many people call it. Apple's been playing it very safe. They've been looking at what others people are doing, and I think the iPhone 6 Plus is an answer to everybody telling them you guys need a bigger phone, but that's it. So to kind of sum things up, the iPhone, as I said in the beginning of the video, is a good phone. If you're looking to get a good phone that's balanced, that has a good camera, overall has really good support from a company that you can walk down the street, has many outlets, the iPhone is a phone for you. But if you're looking for an experience, if you're looking for a phone that is truly a smartphone that adapts to your lifestyle, not only from a personal but also from a business point of view, then I would say the iPhone is not for you and I would look somewhere else. So just to clarify, because I already see the comments pouring in, when I say the iPhone is a good phone, I mean it, let's look at it from a point of view of school grades. It would be considered like a letter B. So when Timmy goes to school and the teacher talks to his parents, they say Timmy did good in school because he got a B. But then there's that kid that gets a letter A. Johnny did great in school. He did excellent. So there's a lot of good Android phones out there, but there's also a lot of great, excellent Android phones too. So that just kind of gives you a little bit more of a breakdown. It doesn't make the iPhone a bad phone. It's not the best in class, but it's also not the worst in class. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there just to give you more of a where the iPhone stands. Personally, for me, it's a phone that I cannot use. And even with the next release of the iPhone, as long as it's using iOS the way it is today, I'm not even going to bother buying it. I'm not trying to milk this for views or, to get more out there. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even going to do this video, but a lot of you people out there wanted to see my point of view of the iPhone. But if the iPhone, let's just say 7 or whatever it's going to be called, the 6S, is going to have the same iOS that is still today or is slightly better, there's no point because there's no way that I will even switch and it's just a waste of time. Now, to cover Bendgate, because a lot of people are going to ask me, Armando, what do you're saying that the build quality is really, really good. How can you say that when the phone bends? First of all, let's talk about that for a second. I don't want to dive too much into it. Bendgate is a bunch of crap, okay? It's just a YouTuber with a combination of other YouTubers that help promote this video to make it go viral in a nutshell. Does the iPhone 6 bend or 6 Plus bend? Yes. Do other phones bend? Yes, but it takes a lot of pressure. Don't believe all the BS, all the hype that's out there that it easily bends when you put it in your pocket. Let me break it to you this way. Do you guys remember the iPhone 4 or even the iPhone 4S? It was made out of glass. But nobody cared. It didn't matter. There was no such thing as Shattergate, right? There was people that had phones that dropped them from maybe 2-3 inches off the ground, fell on concrete, and it shattered, okay? Think about that for a second. I saw so many people, and I guarantee you guys did too, with iPhone 4, 4S, with shattered phones, basically. They were all broken up, right? Nobody cared. It's a phone that's delicate. See, my point is that I highly doubt that I'll see anybody with a bent iPhone like I did with a broken iPhone. That's my whole point. They're blowing this way out of proportion. When I use my iPhone 6, matter of fact, I actually even had a chance to use the iPhone 6 Plus for a while. And what's interesting, one is really funny. Daughter jumps on top of my lap, and I was like, oh no, let's see what happened. She literally jumped. She's weighed about 35 pounds, but a lot of force. Looked at the phone, perfectly fine. I even tried to bend it. Not really hard because there's no point, but I did give it a really good tug and it doesn't bend. So don't believe the hype. Very durable. Even certain Android phones bend under a certain amount of pressure. So dismissing that, just wanted to get that out of the way because I figured some people were going to ask me. Lastly, there's other things I didn't talk about like NFC and other software features, and that's because I want to open this up to the people that want to continue to I guess, hear me talk about the iPhone. So I want to do a live hangout. So in the next week or two, follow me on Google Plus or Twitter. I'll send out a tweet letting you know when this live hangout is going to be. So that way, if you guys want to chime in, and I'm also going to probably open this up to a couple of people if they want to come in and have a discussion with me so that we can talk furthermore of the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus and a little bit more about tech and kind of geek out. So if you guys liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, well, I guess dislike it. If you really liked it, make sure you share this with all your friends and family. Until next time, keeping it real, adios. Every release, a phone should get better, but I don't think that has always been the case for Apple. But I really think that the iPhone 6 is a huge improvement compared to the previous releases or previous generations of the iPhone. I was really looking forward to the iPhone 6, primarily for the larger display and, of course, the features that are coming from Android. And I don't mean that in a negative way. A lot of the iOS 8 features, I would say a good 90% of them are from Android. I'll do a little bit of social networking, but I'm also going to give you my point of view from my perspective as an Android user. So, to kind of mix both of them up, I want to give you the most objective review that's out there on YouTube today. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, I want to say that this is the best iPhone that I have ever used. I also want to say that this is the best iPhone that Apple has created. And it should be. You would think that after features that we've come to enjoy, and I figured that if I can have more features like Android in iOS 8, the transition for me to use this as a daily driver, I would feel like home. So I was really excited. I picked the 5.5 version, but ended up getting the 6 because it was still on back order. And I must say that the 6 feels really good in the hands. I mean, I know everybody seems to say that it feels really good in the hands, but I think it's almost like the perfect size for a one-handed operation. In terms of build quality, I don't think we really need to question that. I think that Apple has always created really good phones in terms of build quality, fit and finish. It's a very nice looking phone. It's a bit slippery for my liking. I know certain people did not like the protruding camera in the back and also the antenna bands. They said it wasn't typical Apple to overlook those things in terms of design. And if Steve Jobs was alive. What's up, guys? So I had the opportunity to buy an iPhone 6 on release day. Now this video is not going to be like most of the videos you've probably already seen on YouTube. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to talk about specs. I want to do a review video that focuses on the iPhone 6 for what it is, looking at it at face value. Now, one thing I do want to say is that this video is going to focus more on your average consumer, somebody that's going to buy the phone like many people that buy smartphones just to browse the web, look at their email,